I do think that there's a lot of situations where a lot of black women may see the black men that go after other races who happen to have long hair, but it's not because of the hair that they're going after them. There's some men that like a certain temperament and behavior in women, and they find that in other races and not in black women. Some like me, I've dated all races, definitely, and there is definitely a difference, huge difference. And so,
you're dark as a screen. Why are you wearing purple hair?
On the street.
Why are you dark as a screen wearing yellow hair? I'm looking at it looking like a road sign. I mean, what is this?
So I don't really buy into the protective hairstyle thing and all the stuff I hear talking about. At the end of the day, and you got to forgive me for being a West Coast cat who was raised by Black Panthers. You know, I do not want my wife, the women in my family who I cover or take care of, to feel like they have to look like I have the texture of this natural to someone else.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mel, and welcome to Life Coaching by Mel. Here at Life Coaching by Mel, we speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get each and every one of my videos. Hit that like button for me. Hit me in that comment section. Today is going to be an invigorating conversation that I know you want to contribute to, and be sure to share this with at least one person. Let's get into today's topic.
That's right, and which they do all the time. So let me ask you this question though. So you're married, right? So if your wife had this beautiful dinner dress, wedding dress that shows cleavage, and she loves it, makes her feel confident, looks good on her, wants to wear, what would be your response to that?
Nope. Because it ain't.
So there's no discussion. You're shutting it down, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So how you guys are leaning over to our next question? Good job. Y'all got this thing going. That's amazing.
We're on point.
I was about to jump in and make it even deeper. So
okay, let's go into that conversation. Have you ever, as a man or boyfriend or potential boyfriend, a man, husband, whatever you want to look at it, ever looked at a woman and asked her to change something about her looks? If no, why haven't you? If yes, what was the outcome? We're gonna start.
Gotta go Seiko first.
Wow.
He said, "Wow,
wow, everybody picking on me." What am I, Charlie Brown? Okay, so all right. I was reading the lower third question. So you said, let me see. Repeat the question again, Mel.
Have you ever asked a woman to change something about her looks? If you have not, why haven't you? If yes, what was the outcome?
Okay, so does the woman have to be my wife or daughter or sister or niece or anything like that? Or is it just it has to
wife? Go with wife. You gotta go with wife.
Okay, wife definitely, bro. Wife definitely. Daughters definitely. I mean, anyone under my covering and under my care, I have that right to have that authority. Here's the reason why. Let me go in this cut Dr. Phil right now across the board, right? Let me cut off at the pass. Talk about work, right? If I own a business and somebody comes to my place of employment, my place of business, and immodest or improper time, matter of fact, either no shirt, no shoes, no service, right? We heard that before, right? But if an employee of mine comes in and they know what the attire is, oh yeah, you gotta go back home. So now, if it's true in the business world, because I guess the motivation is, oh, I need to get this paper, I need to get this bread. Then how much more respect should it be for those of us who are husbands, fathers, uncles? I mean, bro, we talking about a community of people in the Black community, man, where we got to get people back to some sense of morality and how we carry ourselves. I'm not talking about wearing burlap sacks and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. But I am speaking to the fact that if my wife, who is supposed to represent me, who's carrying my name, I ain't carrying her, she carrying mine, right? What she does, how she dresses, how my daughters dress represents me. Matter of fact, how my son dress represents me. But we're talking about women. So yeah, I would definitely have to have a conversation. And by the way, have had those conversations before. More so with my daughters than my wife, though.
Sure, rebuttal, Mel, or you want to go around first?
Let's go around first. You answer next.
Okay. You want me to go? Okay. Me, personally, no. I've never had a woman wear something to the point where it actually bothered me. Makeup, however, I have, where it was like too much makeup. But it was more so just kind of like letting her know, hey, you really don't need all that. I actually think you look better naturally without it. That was more the context. But as far as outfit, I've never had to say that because, like I said, for me, that's where kind of me and Seiko disagree. Number one, I don't feel it's necessarily a reflection on me. Number two, I look at her character. If her character is what I want, I don't care if she's running after showing cleavage. If that makes her feel confident, she's got to wear what makes her feel confident. I stand by it.
You're still Byron.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be a no as well. I've never asked a person to change how they appear. I will say that I've thrown out what I like. So I will throw out things like, I like this. I think that looks good. Or I think, like Dr. Phil said, I think the natural look looks good. But I'm not asking you directly to change anything. If you want to try that out, that's awesome. Like I mentioned, I told my wife, like, I really like sundresses. She did. I didn't say you got to go get a sundress today. You know what I'm saying? So like, so yeah, that's kind of my style. And a big reason for that is because, again, earlier we were talking about how we like women to show up for us. And for me, there's that level of confidence. I want to see that whoever I'm with has that level of confidence about them. And I think that me interjecting my own things into try to manipulate their appearance could cause or could damage their level of confidence. Potentially. I'm not saying it would. There could be some things that they take and say, like, this is great. But in life, the model that I've learned is the more you mess with something, the more you kind of start messing it up. So it's just better just like let that thing be what it is and like appreciate it for what it is.
Can I touch on one part about the looks? I would agree with Dr. Phil when he mentions about the makeup. I tell my wife, I tell my daughters, you don't need makeup. Now, if I really felt that you did, oh man, I'll be, bruh. Listen, hey, listen. I saw this. Mary Kay has a sale. I think, matter of fact, you know what?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's a compliment, right? And I tell my wife and my daughters this all the time. Like, y'all don't need no makeup. You don't. You really don't. And for me, I'm grateful that I have a wife and I have daughters that are beautiful and that that exude that without even have to have anything to accentuate that. But I understand they're women, so I get. I just wanted to qualify that because I agree with what Dr. Phil said on the looks and the makeup part. That's a huge thing for me as far as people overdoing it with the makeup.
Okay. So I was going to rebuttal what Seiko said earlier. So my question to you is kind of two-part, right? So one, when your wife, like the example I was given, she shows up with this dress, she loves it, looks good. Your response is no. My question to you is, where in there did you consider her?
Well, number one, I think what she considers the fact that she knows what I like. So she wouldn't wear anything that she knows I didn't really care for, or if it's something that I'm not comfortable with her wearing, I always either say, well, here's why. And it's vice versa as well too. So I think it's an issue of consideration. And again, I'm talking about we've been married for 24 years, 26 been knowing each other. So we know what each other likes. Now, if my wife wore something that I did not care for, didn't approve, then it goes back to submission and authority. And I'm not talking about where she got her head down and can't sit. No, it's not that. But it's an issue of respect for the authority and for the position that I have. Number one, as her covering, as her husband, but also as a man, because I know if I'm feeling it, I ain't the only brother out here that's gonna feel it too. So I don't want to have to catch no case. I'm too old to be going to somebody's jail, and I ain't about to be nobody's punk making your breakfast. I ain't doing all that, right? So to alleviate all of that, hey, where you going with that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So my question is, why isn't there a question to ask her why she likes the outfit versus just your opinion, how you feel about it?
Oh, that has happened as well too. I mean, but because a person likes something doesn't mean that that's appropriate. I mean, like you mentioned, you said you don't. I'm assuming you have no guardrails with what a woman wears or how she carries herself in so much and insofar as she likes it. I think that opens up Pandora's box to a lot of other areas and a lot of other issues that we need to be considerate and mindful of. Because now, do we really care about how they're being perceived or how they're being looked at or handled. So if I'm supposed to care for my neighbor, be my brother's keeper or my sister's keeper, whatever, right? Then I should be concerned about how a young lady or my niece or someone in my family or somebody that I'm concerned about on how they carry themselves. Just because a person says, well, as long as I'm comfortable with it, that opens up a huge door that I think we need to be very mindful of when it comes to that issue.
I think
So if she wears that outfit, like I was saying, that with a dress, like I'm saying, she's saying, I love this outfit. I love the way it looks at me, the way it makes me feel. Your focus is how it makes you look, right? Is what you're saying.
It's both
right?
and. It's both and. It's about me because she represents me, but it's also who she represents ultimately, which is Christ. And again, it's not based on how I feel. There should be based on some truth and some facts here, because just because you may like something doesn't mean that it is accepted. Matter of fact, Paul even says that all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. So what's the big picture? Why do you like that is the question. Well, I just like how it looks. Okay, but it's showing your cleavage, and you're a Christian, and you're a woman of God, and you're a mother, and you have people who are following you. So there's levels and layers to this. So it ain't just about you. It's about me. It's about this person. It's about these people that you're also going to have to represent as well. So that's how I would address that and look at that as well too.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think kind of zooming in.
Wait a minute, hold on. You got me. You gave me one on that one. I got you.
Well, when you pull religion into it, I have to. If you're a woman of God and she's a preacher, I can't fight your religion because there's two different conversations with religion versus So
yeah, I'm messing with you. Yeah, you good.
I'm gonna say some things that make it a little spicy. So I think that there's a couple of things at play, right? There's a lot of things at play here. I think parts of it are revolve around fear, revolve around shame, revolve around control. And, and then lastly, I think parts of it revolve around, I think us as men in a way, right? Like in a little bit of a lack of self-control to a degree, right? So I'm gonna hold us accountable here, right? So when we say like a woman can't go out with cleavage because, it's going to cause a distraction, like the other guys are going to be looking at her and stuff like that. To me, that says the responsibility is on the men to handle themselves accordingly, right? Like I can't subject you to doing something personally based on how I will respond to that. So, and here's where I'm going. Follow me, right? Let's go to Africa for a minute, right?
All the way.
So, let's go to Africa. So in Africa, right? Lots of Christianity. Christianity has roots in Africa. And there are women that walk around topless, completely breast exposed, right? And I do know that there are things, rape and stuff like that still happens there. But none of those women walking around with no shirts on reflects anything poorly on their husbands. And I don't think that any of them feel shame. And I do think that they do still represent themselves as Christians. So why is it a problem here?
I like that point. I think that there's, to your point, and I agree with that. For a lot of men, a lot of the reasons why they control the women, where it's a sense of insecurity. And I've seen it a lot of men, right? There's a lot of men that feel like, well, other men are going to look at you, and maybe somewhere deep inside, they're worried somehow she's going to either start going to other men or something to that effect. Like, for example, I have a friend who, he had this wife who like never dresses up, almost kind of like a tomboy. And she had this beautiful ball gown dress in blue. And I asked him, I'm like, did you even tell her how good she looks? The way he confidently said, of course not. Like he said it with so much confidence. I was like, what you're thinking is going to keep her with you is actually going to chase her away because somebody else will give her that compliment. You know what I mean? So I think to your point, sometimes it's an insecurity with some men where they're worried about other men looking at their wife or possibly, who are you wearing it for? She's doing it for somebody else. And it becomes more of an insecurity thing than more so, to Seiko's point, how she represents him. So that I see what you're trying to say, Byron. I agree with that.
So let me talk about the clothing in Africa. And since you mentioned, Byron, that Christianity, there's Christianity in Africa. You're absolutely right. Eden is in Africa. When Adam and Eve were the two people that were on the planet, the Bible says they were naked, right?
Yep.
Okay. When did they put on clothes?
After they ate of the apple and then
It's just a fruit.
realized that they were in, realized
Okay.
that they were naked.
Why did they put on clothes?
Because they felt shame. Which is the thing that I just said is why.
Hold on. So because of sin brought forth shame, but there was only two people on the planet. Cain and Abel ain't came on the scene yet. But just only two people on the planet, right?
Well, wait a minute.
I mean, my Bible says it's only two. I don't know about it. It wasn't two Adams. It wasn't two Eves. Just Adam and Eve. Just two people.
I guess
So
deeper
I'm
than
gonna throw
that.
something in there for just a second.
Go right ahead, and I'll cook down the part.
Adam and Eve were in the garden, but I don't believe they're the only people on the planet. Because when Cain and Abel came around,
I'm sorry.
Because when Cain and Abel came around, right?
You do understand that it takes a man and a woman to have a baby, and that came.
Hold on. Okay, let's get into it. You heard about the land of Lot?
Yeah, that's an apocryphal book. So
the land of Lot
doing that
in Genesis.
The land of Lot, but that's not Genesis 1 and 2. 1 and 2 come before 3 and 4. And 5 and 6.
But how did all these people? Okay, so we know who the descendants of Adam and Eve are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I mean, but so
who's going to judge Cain? Who's going to judge Cain?
Who's going to judge
why is
Cain?
he afraid? Yeah, why is he afraid? What is he afraid of after he kills his brother?
Because he's a murderer.
What is he? Who is he afraid of?
He's afraid of anyone killing him now because he's marked.
No, he makes a specific statement.
He said God marked him. And matter of fact, God said, no, if anyone does kill him, they're going to be judged 70 times 7.
Okay. And then where did he flee to when he left the garden?
You said, where did he
go? Yeah, where did he go?
I'm trying to remember. It would probably be later on. I'm not sure if that would be Lot or it would be where did he go? I'm trying to remember now.
It's the land of Lot. You're right. So
it was Lot, right?
So there's a population of people that exist at this time
was
outside of the direct
Adam?
descendants.
Hold on, time out. I'm asking. Are you saying that these people existed before Adam and Eve?
I'm saying it's possible.
But it ain't possible because the Bible don't teach that.
But the Bible does say that these people existed.
No.
And they didn't just come from anywhere. It doesn't say that they came from.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Because I think we got to deal with the initial statement. I said Adam and Eve. God created Adam. Do you believe that the Bible says, according to Genesis 1, God created man in his own image, in the image of God, he created a male and female, he created them, right?
Yep.
Who was the first person that God created on the planet?
The first subject that we hear about is Adam.
Is that a person?
That's a person.
We're
hearing. Okay, I know we're going off on the deep end.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make a point about this whole naked thing. But
yeah, go for that. Let's go into that. I got to stop.
But I want to clear this up for the audience. This has to be clear for the audience. Do you agree that according to Genesis 1 and 2, that the earth had no human beings on the planet until God created Adam?
Yes.
And then so you do?
Yes.
Okay, so Adam was the first person on the earth.
To my belief, yes, because and then we had Eve.
And where did Eve come from?
Adam's rib.
Where did Eve come from?
From Adam's rib.
Okay. And the Bible says in Genesis 4, they got busy.
But it also lists their offspring.
Right? Listen, that's a historical narrative. That's after the fact that they had children. That's why you got Cain, and that's why you have Lot and Lamech and all of them.
But all of their family was in the garden, though. All of their family was in the garden.
No,
Cain was leaving the garden.
Adam and Eve were driven out of the garden.
So your point, Seiko, though, you're trying to say basically where did the shame come from because there was nobody else around? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it came because of sin. But when you read 1 Corinthians 12, clothing is to cover the things that we don't want seen. That should not be. Matter of fact, the text said that should not be seen. Why does Paul, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, say that? because now as a result of sin, there'll be no need to cover anything if sin never came into the world. So we don't walk around with our stuff swinging, and neither should women walk around with their stuff hanging out either.
So that's where it gets subjective though, because if you go from the Bible, then we shouldn't be wearing shorts. You're supposed to be covered with the undergarment that's supposed to be like you can't even wear shorts walking
Loins.
around. It becomes
Yeah.
very
Well,
subjective. Right. You have to
I'm
be
asking,
loins girded, you have to be fully covered.
okay,
So it
so
becomes very subjective there too.
let me ask you this question. So I would agree to a point when you talk about short, but now when you say short, how short? Because the text doesn't show anything about, the text doesn't mention anything about, what it mentions about is having our loins girded, and it mentions about us having our bodies covered, being in modesty
Right.
and holy apparel. So we can say, okay, what is holy apparel? Anything that does not expose the things that should not be seen. Breasts are covered, a man's loins are covered. In fact, what happened with Noah and his son, right? The Bible says Noah got drunk. And who came into his tent and saw his nakedness?
Was it Ham?
The son, right?
Yeah, it was Ham, right? So there's an immodesty that should never be, or there's immodesty rather that should never be displayed, never, according to Scripture. And if we're Christians, I don't let the culture define how I carry myself as a ambassador of Christ. I let the Scriptures, which is the canon of God's word, influence how I live in the culture. That's what it tells us to be different. So when we talk about women, why are we lowering the bar and saying, okay, well, it depends on how they feel? The Bible says the women are weaker vessel, and I'm not being chauvinistic. I'm saying they're the weaker vessel in the sense of that they don't think like we do in the sense of being like this, in the context of this. You and I, we're having a man-to-man conversation, right? So I can say, boy, you talking crazy. Boy, you a fool. Boy, or just talking hard, talking rough. They're the weaker vessel. They're gentle. I'm not to carry them, or I'm not to handle them like a Dixie cup. I'm to handle them like a vase or china. It's a way that we do that. And it's a way that we speak to them as well, too. So I believe that as men, God has called us to protect women, not to parade them and not to have them seen as trophies.
Final thought. Anybody have a final thought on that? Oh, y'all gonna let them get away with that? Okay.
Because that way we can't. Because if I will keep going, we gotta get to my topic. Right. So might as well move on.
Yeah.
All right. Spirit of conversations, fellas. I love it. Let's go on to our next question here. Now, let me preface by saying there's been a notion for decades that one of the biggest reasons black men choose to date outside of their race is because of the hair texture of other races of women. They say black men prefer straight hair, and that's why a lot of black women wear weave and wigs in order to attract black men. Simple question. How true is this? We'll start with Byron.
Well, I can't speak on how true it is from a woman's perspective as to why they carry themselves the way they do, right? I do believe that all of us try to carry ourselves in a way to attract a mate, right? So if some women have arrived at the conclusion that, like, I feel like a lot of men prefer long, straight hair, and that's what they want to do to try to attract a mate, then I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I don't believe that it's 100% true, right? As I mentioned a lot of times, African women, right? I don't know. I know y'all seen Black Panther. African? My wife is Middle Eastern.
Okay.
But I know y'all seen Black Panther, and listen, I'm not about to get myself in trouble on here. But there's some attractive women that don't have long, straight hair. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I don't believe that this message is 100% true across the board. I think it's all very subjective and varies from person to person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. I think it's an issue of preference. But if I had to probe it, I would probably ask the question: why do women think they have to wear that? in order to be seen to be whatever. I mean, if you're wearing, or if you believe you got to have this certain kind of hair in order to be this, then who are you really trying to be? But I don't have a personal issue with it. I do believe that, like to Byron's point, there are women who are beautiful without hair, and then you have, what about the cancer patients? What about people who have really, who have alopecia, who really have that? So you don't want people to, or women to feel that you're not a real woman if you don't have long flowing hair, because then that opens up again another door to judging a person based on appearance without it being a justification for that, because then you're basically destroying a woman's character and destroying her image, who God has made in His image and His own likeness to be celebrated and appreciated.
All right, I'm about to give you a whole spicy answer for this. Hope you're ready. Well, first of all, I think I don't think that actual context is true of that statement of black women saying that black men like wigs and straight hair, and that's what I wear. I think a lot of women wear it for confidence reasons. They're not confident in their natural hair. They wear the fake hair, the wig, the long hair that makes them feel more confident. I do think that there's a lot of situations where a lot of black women, we see the black men that go after other races who happen to have long hair, but it's not because of the hair that they're going after them. There's some men that like a certain temperament and behavior in women, and they find that in other races and not in black women. Some like me, I've dated all races, definitely, and there is definitely a difference, huge difference. And so it's easy. I can see how black women can look at it and be like, okay, so if they're pursuing these women, it's because of the hair. Ask them why. If you ask the men, they're not going to mention hair at all. It's not really it. Now, yes, there's black men that prefer you having your natural hair. Like I prefer natural hair. The weave and wig don't bother me unless it looks really fake. Like where if I as a man can tell it's fake, then it's really fake. But like, yeah, I don't think that it's because they're wearing those hairs because my black men like straight hair. I think they wear it, number one, for their own confidence. It makes them feel more confident when they have the wig industry is like $1 billion industry. You get the Brazilian hair that is the best texture. I have like 4 or 5 sisters, so I know all this stuff. So the best textures, and it makes them feel more confident when their hair is long versus their natural hair. So if a woman doesn't feel confident in a natural hair, she's going to wear an artificial hair to make her feel more confident. And even today's day and age, some men are starting to put fake wig on because they feel more confident in it. And I think that's where it's from. But black men liking straight hair, I've never heard any black men say that. But they definitely choose other races based on certain behaviors. And I think that's probably where that misconception is coming from.
What about you guys, women wearing these wild color hair? Like the loud color, like yellow,
purple.
yeah. I mean, what is y'all's take on that? I mean, do you find that to be? And I know it's a personal preference. Don't get me wrong. I get that, but I mean, I'm like, you're dark as a screen. Why are you wearing purple hair?
On the street.
I mean, I'm just saying. Why you? I mean, why are you dark as a screen wearing yellow hair? I'm looking at it looking like a road sign. I mean, what is this? So
usually it comes down to like attention. Like I asking our preference or why we think they wear it.
Would you have a concern, or would that? I mean, would you date a woman with that kind of?
Honestly, it depends on how it looks. If it's let's say like a burgundy or something that works, it's not overly loud, but like yellow, like you said, really bright, obviously that will bother me. But me personally, like I was saying earlier, it really comes down to that person's personality. No matter what their hair color is, if I love your personality, I don't care if it's green hair, because I love her in her character. The hair will matter. But that's just me.
There's a show my wife watches called Love and Hip Hop. And
I love
yeah, I try not to get into all that drama.
There's a show. I'm like, come on, bro.
So no, I really have to think of the name of it.
Okay.
So there is an Afro Latin lady on there named Amara La Negra. And she kind of at times will wear these exotic hair colors, exotic like eyeshadow and stuff like that. I think it looks amazing. Like, I think it looks great. I think, if you can pull it off, I think I said this earlier, if you can pull it off, go for it, right? And she seems very confident in herself and her appearance. And so, and I kind of mentioned that before, like authenticity and confidence are the things that attract me. So if that's what you want to wear and that's an expression of yourself, go for it. But I do want to ask a spicy question here. So we're talking about women and hair, and there's a particular scripture that's coming to mind, and I'm a little rusty on my scripture, so I can't think of the book, but I kind of remember it was more when things were a little bit more tribal at times, right? And it was something about like, if a woman basically comes into the tribe, essentially, you just shave off her hair, right? And then that way, no man will want her until her hair has regrown and she's taken on the appearance of a woman. Do y'all recall that verse? 11? It might have been Corinthians. I can't remember offhand.
I know Paul mentions about a woman shaving her hair. It's a shame. And it's
her hair is her glory. I know that part.
Yeah, you're talking about, but then that's dealing with the culture and the context, and also the motivation of why she's doing that. Because remember, she's living. These are Gentile believers living in a country or in a land or in an area that is just saturated in worldliness. And so the letter to the Corinthians is trying to encourage and exhort, even admonish them not to be like the culture while being Christians in the culture.
Well, just thinking about that, though, there was something that came to my mind that I was wanting to see if there's a tie-in here, which was that like there was some sort of message to a degree around like basically no man would want this woman if her hair is cut super short. And there was something for men too, right? Like I can't remember what it was, but do we feel like those kind of things had lasting impacts on generations and how we perceive women?
I think it's how it is. Well, number one, it would still deal with a person's preference, but I would think also questions would have to be asked. Why are you shaving your hair? Why are you doing whatever you do to your body? Because there's always reasons why we do what we do. Sometimes we don't want to probe and dig. But I think sometimes we need to, especially because we don't know if that may be a mental issue. We don't know, especially nowadays. Especially now, because people do things and they do it for attention because they're hurt or because they're looking for acceptance. And then when you ask questions, some people get offended. So it's like you can't really win. But I would rather err on the side of asking and saying, hey, I noticed this, and I noticed that is everything okay? Whatever, you know what I'm saying. So I think if number one, it deals with a person's preference. It also deals with motive, and why we do what we do. But I think that even when all those two those two questions or factors have been answered and have been raised, we still don't have the luxury to treat people less than who they are, and that's human. I mean, there's different walks of life, different characters, but I'm to respect all men. And just because this person doesn't like this particular style doesn't mean that I look at them or treat them less than who they are. So hopefully it answers the question. But when we deal with the hairstyle or hair cutting one's hair, and if I'm telling a person you're nothing unless you wear hair, I mean that's abuse in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. So it's the spicy question you're asking, Byron, that whether the Bible plays a role why we don't want women to not have hair? Is that the question to make sure I understand?
Yeah. So basically, that's my question. Essentially, is
it goes back to the motive. I mean, why are they shaving their hair?
I believe it was
cutting their hair.
They were shaving their hair,
right?
Because again, this was a time where things were a little bit more tribal, and so it's like if you're accepting this person into the tribe, you should shave this woman's hair if it's a woman, and basically no man within the tribe will want her until her hair is grown, proving that she's been a part of the tribe for a long enough period of a time to be accepted.
Yeah, I don't think the Bible plays a role for most men anyway in terms of attraction about hair, because naturally, if a woman doesn't have hair, it seems more masculine because men usually don't have hair. It's really just what it comes down to. So hair makes a woman look more feminine in general. Like if you see somebody and you're not sure if it's a man or woman, normally it's because the hair is probably short, off top. So I think that most men are attracted to hair, at least having some hair, because without hair, it just seems more masculine. And at least that's how I would look at that. But I don't think religion plays a role in it at all. Like I think any culture, hair adds to the femininity of a woman.
It goes back to creation and nature, because Paul even mentions that does not nature itself tell you that a man who has long hair it's a shame, but a woman has long hair it's a glory. A woman's glory is in her hair. So again, but you're dealing with the culture and the context of that as well too. But you're also dealing with the nature and what's just seen as natural, what's naturally acceptable, what's naturally the norm.
Spirit of conversation, brother. Just to get a basis of and honestly, this is for me and my beautiful bride Vera. We have this debate all the time. Phil mentioned his preference is natural hair. Seiko and Byron, you guys mind answering that question?
I would prefer natural. I don't really care for wigs. I don't care for wigs. I'm surrounded by 5 women in my house. So and I've been told that wearing wigs or having weave and things like that, it helps preserve and keep their natural hair or whatever. Okay, but even with that, I think to Phil's point, it's how you wear it, it's how you carry yourself. But if you're asking me, like for my wife, I like her hair when it's straight. She wears braids, now a lot as well too, because she says she wants to give her hair a break. That's it. She wants to give her hair a break. She wants to give her hair a break. And so, and Phil, I consider that, brother. I consider that.
Sure, we're gonna come to you to answer this question in just a second. But Byron, just for my preference, for my debate with my wife, do you prefer natural or do you have a preference on that?
Yeah, I definitely say I like natural. But again, it's up to her. Whatever makes her feel more confident is cool with me.
Love it, love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Troy to the stage. Troy just covered probably one of the best or greatest World Series games of all time. So we appreciate you for joining on, brother.
The first walk-off Grand Slam in World Series history.
What?
Yes.
Tonight,
just a few minutes ago.
Oh man,
Grand Slam.
What?
So, yes.
I gotta watch the highlight on that joint then.
Yeah, it's gonna be all over.
It's gonna be there, huh? Okay. Hey, who you got? Who you got in the series?
Well, I'm from Long Beach, California, so I'm Dodger fan.
Oh wow. So. Okay.
Through. We've been having a spirited conversation here, Troy. We appreciate you for joining. I know Phil may have to check out here in a moment, but Troy, just for this particular question, you landed on a great question here. It's been this notion for decades that one of the biggest reasons Black men choose to date outside of their race is because of their hair texture, the hair texture of other races of women. They say this: Black men prefer straight hair, and that's not, and that's why a lot of Black women wear weave and wigs in order to attract Black men. How true is that, Troy?
I think it's false. I think I think they do it for each other. I have a beautiful, beautiful wife, and you see me like I ain't dyeing these grays. I'm waiting for the grays to come in. I'm not changing nothing. I appreciate her grays. And my wife started her sister lock journey about a year ago, and I couldn't have been happier. She's been natural since I've known her. I think my wife had a perm in 1991 one time, but she's been natural. Both our daughters are natural. My mother is natural. So I don't really buy into the protective hairstyle thing and all the stuff I hear talking about. At the end of the day, and you got to forgive me for being a West Coast cat who was raised by Black Panthers. I do not want my wife, the women in my family who I cover or take care of, to feel like they have to look like I have the texture of this natural to someone else. And so my daughter has an afro, or she braids it, and and that's what I like.
Mm.
I like one thing loved about my wife when I first met her is she did what's called the pool test. First, right before our first date, we were both at a swimming pool. I was DJing with my shirt off, and she was at the pool, and she jumped in that pool. And when she got out, she looked better than when she jumped in.
Wow.
They always look better when they come out the never mind. I'll let that go.
She came out glistening, and you know how we don't jump in the water. Our women ain't gonna jump in the water to get their hair wet.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, any response to that? Any gentleman have a response to any?
No, I would agree with him as far as the natural man. I mean, I think I and like we were talking about the makeup. I just think that if you don't have to have it, I'm good. I listen. Number one, you're saving money, and then number two, what I'm saying, you save me an argument. So it's a win-win.
And I do also agree too on the fact that I do believe that women set the standards for beauty. And again, on the topic of shame, which we were bringing up earlier, right? I do believe that that's found a lot in between women, where it's like, they can be shamed by each other based on how they carry themselves, where typically you don't see men setting those standards. You don't see men saying, you got to wear the leggings, you got to do your hair like this, you got to do the makeup, you got to do that. Because I ask my wife all the time, why are you getting, what you doing? Like, we're just chilling. Like, you ain't got to do all that, right?
Right.
But they know that like other women are going to be looking at them and possibly forming judgments about them. And so to me, women set those standards.
Yeah.
Do you think, Byron, that it's important for us to I guess you can say, instill that confidence or assurance is a better word, to assure them that, hey, I'm old school. I think maybe Troy, you and I might be the oldest cats in this room right now. But I remember Barry White. One of my favorite songs is "Just the Way You Are." I know. Billy Joel did it, but I think Barry White, man, he nailed that joint. And so that's the song that I think about when I talk to my daughters. Pretty much, my wife knows this, but I definitely give her assurance. But I think that goes a long way too as men, because I would rather my wife and my daughters hear from their husband, their father, hey, I accept you. Hey, you don't need to change nothing. You know what I'm saying? I know the world has their standards. I know the world is going to try to gaslight you into thinking that you have to have this in order to be this. No, you don't. You know what I'm saying? So that's just me. I think as men, it's our responsibility is more so to provide that assurance, to provide that acceptance in our household and the women that God has given us to care for and to steward.
I agree.
It's ironic you mentioned Barry White because he had a perm, back in the day.
Yeah.
And we used to wear our hair all kind of crazy.
Yep.
But what I wanted to say is, I'm 56 years old, so I'm born 1968. So just to give you a little context, and when my wife, who's older than me, was looking at going with sister locks, it was her elders, the people who were older than her, the women and the men, saying, "Man, you can't be successful at selling real estate, with your hair like that, looking like an N-word," what they would say. You know what I'm saying? And so even when I separated from the military 30 years ago, I wore a beard in protest because in business, people couldn't wear facial hair. But now the majority, white males are wearing beards in the workplace. And guess what else white males are wearing in the workplace? They're wearing Dunks, Air Jordans. And so something that was unacceptable, here we are trying to be suited and booted with a tie, clean shaven to raise up the corporate ladder. And you walk in, the CEO is listening to Wu-Tang Clan. He got on Dunks and he got a beard. And so here we are trying to live up to something, and they're looking at our culture and picking the pieces that they want from us. The big lips, the big butts. And so our women are the standard, but we've been confused. And you know what, man, I hate to pivot like this, because the ones who are the worst at it to me, and they talk about us, are the people who from the continent.
Mm.
You go over there, man, that colonization was heavy on them, and they got the most weaves and the most white Jesuses, and they want to be so much like somebody else that, you know, they adopt that whole life. I'm sorry about that, fellas.
Let's go to your point, Stego, to respond to the question you kind of asked earlier. I think it's a little bit of both, right? So yes, to a certain degree, you instilling confidence in the woman, letting her know you love her the way she is, will help her stay more natural. But there's also part of it which, for a woman, is just something that makes her feel confident, in spite of how you feel, right? So it's a little bit of both. So there is a big weight in a man making sure he instills that confidence in a woman, but there's a balance of both. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When it comes to kids, yeah, my take, and you know, I may have a different opinion on this in the next like 18 years because my kids are still pretty young, like 2 or 3 and 1, right? So but yeah, so we're in the thick of it. So but my belief at this point in time is that part of it is, yes, as that father figure, and or just parents in general, is helping to instill that confidence in your child, like letting them know that like they are beautiful how they are. But then the other part is teaching them how to be confident in themselves, because you won't always be there for them to lean on to get that confidence from. So I think that that's where I really see the biggest problem at today, is that like a lot of people just don't have confidence in themselves. They don't have self-esteem. And that subjects you to the kind of things that we're talking about right now, where other people can sort of quote unquote bully you into how you dress and or how you carry your appearance.
Well, you know, if you don't mind me asking you, Byron, how old are you?
36.
Okay, and Jamil, same thing, right? Mel?
37.
And Mr. Woods?
54.
And Dr. Phil?
38.
Okay, so one thing I'm recognizing about the younger men, and I'm really excited about it, because as a father, and that's how Mel met me as a father, right? My son's an outstanding drummer, and I had Mel coaching him for a while. They met in church, and I was told that I was too involved in my son's life. I was too emotional with him. We hugged too much. I shared with him. I loved him too much, because I come from a generation. My dad survived Jim Crow, and he was more. He never hugged me or gave me a kiss. And until I was in my 30s, you know, he felt like his job was to keep me alive, because that's what the Jim Crow instilled in them, right? And so what I appreciate about younger fathers is that's not, you guys are just really loving on your children, instilling these things, because everything you talked about instilling, Byron, they didn't instill into us at home, those of us who were born in the 70s and the 80s, right? And so I remember one day my son, we were having a family meeting, and my wife said something like, hey, respect, you got to be respectful, and it starts at home. And my son, who had the freedom to speak his mind, because and this is a different call, Mel, but I didn't whip my children, and all my elders told me that they would grow up to get shot by the police or in jail, not knowing that 90% of people in jail get whoopings. But they could speak their mind. And my son said something that stuck with me. He said, the only place I'm not respected is at home, right? And so how do you expect a kid to leave home, or a kid at 18 to go into the workforce and stand up for themselves when they couldn't stand up for themselves at home? And that's why I appreciate what I heard you say, Byron, is that you have this idea of how you want to instill confidence, but we don't instill confidence at home in the Black community. And furthermore, last thing I'll say about this is I work with a 25-year-old man who went through what I was going through when I was 25. I was very smart, super intelligent, advanced classes, all that. But at home, my community told me I was too smart for my own good, and it was bad to be that smart. You know what I'm saying? And so I hid it. When I seen this other young man, super smart, I went in and made sure that he had the covering of an OG that I didn't have. I didn't have a 50-year-old man when I was 25 telling me, man, you gonna do something. They tell me, oh, you trying that business thing? It ain't gonna work. You need to get your behind a job, or they said I was too optimistic. So I really appreciate that, Byron.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Love it, fellas. So, in the interest of time, we're going to move forward. Our last question. Troy, I'm going to give you a combo on this because you didn't get to answer the one previously. I want you to answer, have you ever asked a woman to change something about her looks? If no, why haven't you? And if yes, what was the outcome? But also, for everyone, what message do you have to any man that's having difficulty expressing his preferences in dating or relationships or his relationships? Go
Okay,
ahead,
so
Trey.
the first part is, I have and had a type. So you got to remember, when I talk about, when you ask me about women, I've been with my wife since I was 22 years old, and I'm 56, right? And I have a preference, and so I was clear on what I wanted in my preference. So no, you ain't have to change nothing. Um, I feel like we as men sometimes um, have to acquiesce to what we think the woman wants. I knew what I wanted. I wanted, and look, and it might not have sounded good. I'm gonna say exactly what I told her. My mother was heavy set at a time when people wasn't heavy set. In the '70s, wasn't no fat people, right? Except for rerun. They were famous. If you was heavy, you was famous. You know what I'm saying? You watch Soul Train, you don't see no big people. And my mother was obese, and I was ashamed of that. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, man, I want my wife to be athletic like me. And so when she goes to the school, they ain't nobody talking about. I had to learn how to talk back bad about people. Everybody talk about my mom, you know. And so my wife is within 10 pounds of the day that I met her. Right now, I put on 100 pounds in the last 35 years, but she hated me when I was skinny. Not hated me, but she didn't like when I was skinny. You know what I'm saying? And so no, I haven't told a woman to change, but I've been with my wife my whole adult life. So that's how I answer that question.
Yeah, you're muted, man.
Sorry about that. Do you have a message for a man that's looking to state his preferences?
Okay, so here it is. I'm glad you asked that question. So, and I've been thinking about this all day. When you hit me with this, I was like, yeah. Because I remember, Mel, I'm going to deviate a little bit because I remember one time that you came and talked to me because you just wanted to hear from a grown man. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I appreciate about you, if I haven't told you, I appreciate the boldness and the decision to end your first marriage, right? Because I know that is hard in our community. And I know that, you being a good Christian man, that is like looked down upon. And I really, that level of bravery does not exist for men. And so men will suffer in silence for multiple decades, right? And so now you went through and you did the work. You went through what I call the wilderness, and you did the dirty work to find the new love of your life, right? And so when people ask me, as a man who's been married 30 years, been with my wife for 35 years, for advice about marriage, I tell them I only know 180 of a relationship because I've never been divorced. You need to talk to men like Mel who understand it, because I can tell you how I'm gonna act if I leave my wife, she leave me, but I don't know, right? And so what I would encourage any man, this is what I tell my son, and any young man, is give me, when you hit 18 or 19, that age where people start pairing up, give me 5 to 7 years of focused effort of developing yourself. You can't afford to date right now. You need to focus on wherever you're going, because what's going to happen, whatever education or vocation level that is, if you make a 5 to 7 year, if you make a
Hop out. Yeah.
Okay.
7 to 5 year commitment to yourself, the level that you get to, the women you meet at that level would have made a similar sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And so I tell young men to develop themselves. Don't think, and I never told my son he's somebody's husband. Never told him that. Never told my daughter she's somebody's wife. It's like, develop yourself to the highest level where you want to be. And in the rooms you're walking in, then you're going to meet someone who's going to be better for you and grow with you. That's the advice I would give to any young man.
Love it, man. I really appreciate what you said. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. All right, let's go, Byron.
Yeah. So I guess it's a matter of if you're already with the person or, or not. But I think it all starts in the beginning, a lot like what Troy's saying, which is that rather than getting with someone and then asking them to change themselves, You should instead find or attract what aligns naturally with your preferences. That's probably the path of least resistance that you could follow, right? But if you're already, with someone and you want to, you want them to change their appearance, I think you should approach it with respect and respect their level of autonomy as well, right? So you need to be mindful in how you go about doing it, but you should, if it's really weighing on you, really causing you problems, you should have the confidence to have that conversation with them. But again, be respectful about it, be mindful about it. That would be my advice.
Good stuff, man. Seiko.
Yeah, I agree with both of these gentlemen. I would probably add, I would want to know their relationship if they have siblings, like sisters, or what's their relationship with their mother, if they have that. I think there could be a possible correlation with that. How did he express himself to his mother? What were their conversations like? Sisters or female or friends and things like that, because that, to me, that is the launching pad to dealing with other relationships outside of the home. Because a lot of the times we as men, you may have a hard time expressing yourself, but you may not have had that before. It didn't just start. It didn't just happen just out of nowhere. There has to be some history, some background to that. So I would want to know, what were their relationship like with their mother, or if they had sisters or something like that. And then I would basically, encourage them to say, okay, now understand, do you want to be in a relationship with a female? You know what I'm saying? We got to understand it because they desire communication. And I would even say, real brothers, real men, we desire communication too. The problem comes is that we don't want the disrespect. And none of us should be disrespected. But I think that the question you're asking that brother, hey man, look, do you want to be, what do you desire in a relationship? Or what are conversations that may cause you to feel that you can't express yourself? Because I think that there are certain men who kind of like pull away from conflict. And so if you're not an outgoing person, or if you're an introverted person, then you need to make that known when you are talking to somebody. Because if not, if this person is outgoing, if this person likes to have conversation, or you disagree with that person, don't interpret it as that person saying, you're not expressing your feelings, or you're not respecting my feelings. So it starts at the home. It really does start in the home. It starts with the women or the females that they have been around, because I really believe that sets the stage, man, going forward in these relationships outside.
All right. Any responses to anyone statement?
Well, no, I think that Brother Wood said a lot right there in a good way, because I know a lot of men who avoid conflict because they were raised by their mother, right, and their grandma, and you couldn't say your piece, and so you carry that into your adulthood.
Exactly.
And I've seen I grew up fortunately with my mother and my father. And we talk about how women want communication, but 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal, right? And so they think it's just talking. And and so a lot of times women, if they haven't been around a man and then you become their husband, they don't know how to react to someone who's speaking in a logical way. And I remember there's been a few times where I had to, tell my wife early on, like, respond to me like you respond to your boss at work.
Come on.
Would you say that to your coworker who was even on your level? Would you talk that? Would you talk that kind of talk?
Right.
And so we have to, when we talk about women want communication, what we have to be very clear on is communication is 20% verbal. It's like, do they shut down on you? Do people withdraw because they don't like conflict?
Right.
Early in my relationship, the things I feel like I made mistakes on was I'd be like, man, okay, man, I ain't tripping on that. You know what I'm saying? You know what? Go ahead. And then, that seed becomes a branch, and then it becomes a tree. And now it's a problem.
Right.
When it was something that I just was just like, you know what, they say pick your battles. Like, you know what, I'm just gonna let that slide,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I think the communication is important, but it's also your background. It's like, what's your relationship with the people who you grew up with? How were you raised? What childhood traumas have you not addressed? Because most of us in my age group, we didn't go to get any counseling. We just thought we were just, just like that's what life was. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk.
And now all these young people, they super emotional, and I get it, I understand, but I got cussed out. I got a whooping if I had to go to the doctor. I just grew up different. You know what I'm saying?
Golly.
Like, I done broke my wrist and I'm gonna get a whooping too because mom had to take off work. Jeez.
Real.
Sleep it off. Fellas, it's been an amazing conversation. Troy, thank you so much for hopping on later on. Seiko, thank you so much. Byron, thank you both, you guys. I mean, Troy, you missed the real show.
I'm gonna see it, but y'all just keep inviting me back. But again, before I leave, man, I just want to talk about how much I appreciate you watching you grow over these last 10 years that I've known you, and then sticking to this format. Like, it'd have been real easy to quit when no one was paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I watched you put this in play when no one was watching. And continue to push with it. And I think the value of that is being a consistent man is more important than anything.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate that. You don't know how much you've helped me, and I really appreciate it. You don't know, like, I don't know if you remember this. I was talking about dating, and I was on the app. Actually, how I learned about that app was from Byron. He did blame for it. Bumble.
Yep. That's how I met my wife. Yep.
So I was on that app. And you told me, bro, you need to be focused. Same speech you said here tonight. You need to be focused on your grind. Like, what are you worried about dating for? You need to be focused on building yourself. And I said, man, he right. So I stayed on that one more day. I ain't gonna lie. I stayed on that one more day.
Yeah.
And that's why I met my wife.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Well, good,
I was determined that was my last day.
It's crazy.
Because of what you said. But I still stuck to what you were saying, stay focused on the grind. And I appreciate you saying that. And man, it has been something I'm trying to build. And you've been a lot of influence. All three of you guys. Seiko, me and him just recently met, but we've connected on the high level, and it's been amazing. Yeah. But man, I appreciate you guys.
For sure.
All right. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mel. Thank you for joining my channel. Thank you for checking things out here. Oftentimes we go on people's pages and are like, man, what is going on here? What is the purpose of this channel? So let me be clear. The purpose of this channel is to speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And when I say truth, I'm not saying my truth, not your truth, but the Lord's truth. All about the word, all about the ways and the will of God. What does he have to say about the nuclear family? And I believe the generations of today, whether it be Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever the case may be, I believe now we have a very toxic relationship regarding marriage, regarding family, regarding having children. We're in a toxic dynamic as we speak. And honestly speaking, a lot of the answers that we're looking for in our community, a lot of the cures and a lot of the answers would come from a proper, fulfilled family home. If you go down the line of everyone's individual trauma, there you will find some negligence or some type of issue that they had with their parents. So here on this channel, we address those things head on. We don't place fear in those issues and avoid the topic. We do what Jesus did. And when he said, don't assume that I came for peace, but I came with a sword. I came to turn family members against family members if it means you following me. If you have to cut them off, if you have to address them and have arguments for you to follow me, so be it. And I think at this point in our society, we're at the so be it stage. So here at Life Coaching by Mel, I'm all about bringing healing to that. And the number one way to do that is have honest conversations. So if that's something you like, that's something you're into, that's something you really want to be a part of, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to comment. Let me know what you think about everything. I do my best to respond as often as I can. I want to hear from you guys. This is not about me. It's about healing our nation, healing our states, healing our cities, healing our community, healing our homes. Love you guys. Take care.
Let's go.